Stan, we're live.
And welcome to another edition of In the Dugout with Mike Stenhouse. And I am the aforementioned Mike Stenhouse. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, first for a little personal fun. As many of you who have been watching know that unlike probably all of you, when it comes to the NFL, I am a fan of the Green Bay Packers. I'm a massive fan, as are my boys. So in the dugout, I'll be wearing my Acme Packers cap. This is a cap, when the Packers originally were formed, it was the Acme Meatpacking Company. Not Roadrunner, believe it or not, there was a Acme, and that was the Packers. And then eventually they became the Green Bay Packers. Let's kind of make it fun for you this time round. You as Patriots fans, is that the Packers will be playing Sunday in the NFC Championship game at home in Lambeau Field against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of you and other New England Patriots fans watching. There's quite a few Packers fans in Rhode Island. I bump into them all the time. I was walking down the street in my sweatshirt. I got at least 2 beeps. Go Pack, go. It's pretty cool, especially when I used to travel, when we all used to travel. On game day Sundays, NFL game days, I'd always wear my Packers gear, and no matter what airport we were in, we would bump into other people's wearing Packers gear, or people giving us the high five, go Pack, go, or whatever. So it was really pretty cool to see Packers fans join in with you. So that's going to be a huge game this Sunday. The winner goes to the Super Bowl to play either the Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills, and for me, it's the first time that in the Aaron Rodgers era that the Packers will host an NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. Last year they were in the NFC Championship game in San Francisco. Some years ago they were somewhere else and lost, but this will be the first time they'll be hosting the NFC Championship game. So go Pack, go! All right, we got a huge show today. I mean, this inauguration week, month has been the strangest possible. I mean, the lack of buildup is, I don't know what to make of it, is incredibly quiet. And then you look at the military buildup, massive militarization around DC, and as we'll show you in a minute, around other parts of the country, doesn't match, with virtually no fanfare, a virtual swearing in, but yet we're having this unprecedented military backup. Is there something else going on in DC and across America? We're going to explore that. We'll dig into some of the crazy conspiracy theories out there just a little bit. Not that we believe them, but just to keep you informed and to tie it into the overall theme of today's show, which is Never Land. Let me share this with you, but when you look at, another way to say fake news media, which is President Trump's term, is that, people are living in Never Land. If depending on which, as we talked about on our show last week, depending on which news outlets you watch, you and I can have a completely, or us and our neighbors can have a completely different view of what's going on in the world and think the other person is absolutely bat crazy for believing something that's been stated so firmly on their preferred media channels. It's really something else. So we're going to get into that in just a second. But first, I just want to do one little note today about our center. You may have seen that we put out a media release today. That's going to be a main topic of our show tomorrow, even though that's Inauguration Day. Our center, we're going to talk about first anyway tomorrow, and we're going to have a special guest on. I'll tell you about him in a second. But our center today put out a release about how over the weekend we signed a coalition letter opposing the Transportation and Climate Initiative, which is basically a radical environmentalist scheme to raise gas taxes. The tragic thing about it is they're lying to you. It's not about environmental benefits. They're pretending they're appeasing the environmental benefits under the theory that they're going to raise gas taxes so much and collect that money, well, that it's going to mean you will drive less and the rest of us will drive less, therefore reducing our carbon footprint, therefore saving the world from global warming. Okay, that's what these pinheads really think they're going to be able to do. What the real story is, it's nothing but an excuse for a money grab. Just like the Paris climate deal, it's not about saving the planet. It's about redistributing American wealth and other civilized nations' wealth to other parts of the world. It's always about money. And so anyway, we signed a coalition letter along with 20 other free market organizations from over 12 states along the Mid-Atlantic and Northeastern states. And we talk about just how the this TCI scheme is disingenuous. It's nothing but a disguised money grab. And as I quoted in that release, now is not the time to be increasing costs on struggling families and businesses as we desperately try to recover from this pandemic. So many of us, so many of our businesses, restaurants and other businesses are just have closed or may never reach full steam again, or not for a long time. But if we're going to stick our boot on their back even harder by taxing the cars we drive to work or to shop or to see our family or to deliver goods or services, come on, now is not the time for that. Our center, so we're going to talk about that a lot tomorrow. Our guest tomorrow will be a gentleman by the name of I'm blanking on my name. What am I blanking? Paul. What's his name? Paul from the Mass Fiscal Alliance. Larry, help me if you know that. He's the leader of this coalition. We met, you may recall that we met a year ago. In fact, it was just pretty much a year ago this week, if I remember, or next week in Boston. We had about 30 people there from about 15 states. And we met to talk about how, as a multi-state coalition, we could oppose this regional gas tax. So we'll talk much more about that with Paul from the Mass Fiscal Alliance.
Carney said, Paul Carney.
Paul Carney from the Mass Fiscal Alliance. Boy, I'm getting old, guys. Just getting old. So that will be big tomorrow. But we did put out a media release today, but it'll be the topic of our show tomorrow. Okay, so back to today. Let me go back to the land of make believe for a second, because just a little personal note there. Now, did you know? Now you know who Peter Pan's main sidekick was. Remember? Do I want to give you a second to put it in the chat here? Do you remember who it was? Come on, put it in the chat right now. Who was Peter Pan's main sidekick? I will tell you, I won't mention the name yet, but I'll tell you that name of that young girl who flew Peter out the window along with her siblings was invented just for that, by the creator of the Peter Pan. And of course, that name I'm looking here was Wendy. Wendy was a name that did not exist before Peter Pan came out. Did you know that? And it just so happens that that's my wife's name, Wendy. So that's how I learned that. It's not short for Gwendolyn or anything like that. Wendy is a name that was entirely invented by the author of Peter. Okay, so what is going on in America? I mean, what is going on? This buildup. I mean, just look at some of these pictures. Hold on, let me get them to you here. That of the National Guard and the military across our country. There they are in front of the White House, down the street from the Capitol with the barricades and the fences. We've all seen the black fences. They are marching down the streets of DC into position. I got to go back. Great comment. You're right, Roland. Tinkerbell was the little fairy, I guess, right? That accompanied them, but the little girl was Wendy. the human. Tinkerbell wasn't human, but the little girl was. So anyway, so back to these pictures. Thanks, Roland. And here they are again outside the Capitol. I mean, what is going on? I mean, this is not normal. I know we don't live in normal times right now, but this is not normal inauguration security by any stretch of the imagination, especially inauguration that's going to be largely virtual. I haven't even heard yet where Biden's going to be sworn in. Is it going to be outside? Is it going to be inside, privately in the chambers? I mean, there's some crazy theories going around, and we'll touch upon a few of those in just a second. But again, have they received some kind of credible threat on the life of soon-to-be President Joe Biden, or on other members who are attending? Is there some bomb threat that they're not telling us about? I mean, there are rumored to be 26,000 troops in and around DC, manning every single corner, fences barricading most normal routes, walking routes, driving routes, traffic being redirected. What is going on? Are they worried about the left-wing riots like we saw at Trump's inauguration as in 2016? Are they worried about right-wing insurrectionist coups on the Capitol like we saw 2 weeks ago in DC? But preparing for public demonstrations is nothing new. Granted, we haven't seen public demonstrations like we've seen in the last year, both the summer riots and the Capitol building storming, but 26,000 troops. And it's not just DC. It's not just DC. There have been reports. I follow a lot of stuff. I don't talk to you about it because a lot of it doesn't merit public dissemination. But there have been credible and proven reports of massive troop mobilizations throughout the country, of maneuvers off the coast of California. And let me show you right now. I think I can share this here. Just take me a second to fumble. This Twitter that was sent to me. Hold on, let me stop sharing. Of a woman who took some video off the coast of California. Just take a look at this.
Unreal. This is absolutely unreal. So many ships out there. Look it. I'm just going to try to give you a view here. This is unreal to me. Look it. All the way down.
I mean, these aren't shipping ships, commerce ships. These are military transports. These are looks like warships out here.
Just going to try to give you a
for miles in line off the coast of Southern California.
The California coast. I'm by Long Beach, but I have a feeling these ships go all the way up through LA.
I mean, look at that. That's a massive ship right there. Look at that. That is a massive ship. So it's not just a troop buildup in DC. This is happening nationwide. So what are they preparing for? I mean, some of the rumors go from, well, China's been mobilizing its forces, and they're seeing this period somehow of transition and disruption after the Capitol, and all the questions about the legitimacy of the election as a weak point for America. Maybe their military will be caught off guard and we can invade. I mean, come on, I don't know. Probably not, right? Probably not. But why this troop buildup? Tucker Carlson, a guy I greatly respect and who had a equally crazy view last night on his show. He said this was a democratic show of state power. That we are in control. We want you to see it, and we will use the military and all other means to enforce and advance our agenda, like it or not. Now, that's pretty damn arrogant. That's pretty damn illegal. And that's pretty damn un-American if true, but I don't think it's true. First of all, Democrats don't control the military right now. President Trump, as the commander-in-chief for at least 20 more hours, controls the military. Again, I'm not a national security or armed forces expert, but based on everything I know, they're not there at the behest of the Democrat power structure. They're there either on their own military structure, or they're there at the behest of President Trump as commander-in-chief. Well, why would Trump put all these people here? I mean, what do you think? I got a few more things to share with you, but let me just remind you, that you can either share your thoughts in the comment section if you're watching live here on YouTube, or you can if you want to zoom into the show, go to rafreedom.org/talk. Take you right to the Zoom link. Or if you just want to call in, here's the number down here. And then I'd love to hear your opinions, because I don't know what the hell's going on. It's not normal. Something's not right. Something is being anticipated. I have no idea what it is. Now, let me remind those of you also, though, just from a process point of view, those of you who are on our Zoom right now, just watching in the background, and that's fine. We welcome you to do that. If you'd like to participate, ask a question, make a comment, put a note in the chat so Larry, the Liberty guy, can see it. Just put a brief like, hey, I'd like to ask this question, and just maybe summarize it in 6-7 words. I'd like to ask a question about X. And then Larry will know to bring you on the show. All right. If you just want to sit there quietly and listen and watch, that's fine. You're welcome to do that. But again, if you'd like to participate in the show, if you are logged into our Zoom, do write a note in the chat section so Larry, the Liberty guy, can see you. But I really would like to know what you think is going on with all this military buildup. All right, here's a couple other really goofy theories that again are going to tie into the larger theme of the day. So one theory that's been out there a while is that apparently, if it's true, which I'm not saying it is, that Trump is about to use the military to arrest hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have been plotting against him in the country for decades. This is kind of that crazy, whatever QAnon is, but that's what their theory is. And that that something late tonight into early tomorrow will happen, and blah, 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 and that all these troops are being pre-positioned not only to enforce the arrest warrants, but to put down, to quell any public demonstrations against it. Crazy theory. I don't support it. Again, I'm going to tie this into the larger theme later. Another theory is that the generals are doing it on their own in a kind of coup, a military coup, because they don't want to see Socialist Joe Biden, in their view, become president and advance that that leftist, whether or not you want to call it socialist, agenda. There's a question from Claire. Does Biden have the authority to all those warships off California? Well, again, I don't think so. I'm not a military expert. I don't understand how power gets transferred. But Joe Biden, until he's sworn in tomorrow at noon, is not the commander-in-chief. He can make a request, I would imagine, but I do not think he nor Nancy Pelosi doesn't have the authority to. Chuck Schumer doesn't have the authority to order troops around. Only the president, the sworn president at the moment, is the commander-in-chief. So I can't for the life of me think I mean, they're there for some reason. And here's Larry saying, well, maybe Biden's in cahoots with the military leaders. Okay, there's another possibility. Maybe this is a Democrat show of force where Biden has convinced the military leaders to show this force, ostensibly then against the will of President Trump, who's in his final hours. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. These are all, any one of these sounds crazy. Any one of these is probably not real, but there's got to be some explanation for this. We may learn tonight. We may learn tomorrow. We may never know what the explanation for this is. But what you're seeing in Washington, D.C., what we just showed you off the coast of California, I mean, those are massive military ships. Looks like dozens and dozens of them lined up for miles in a row, in a line off the coast of California. Why? What's going on? So anyway, at any point you can chime in. And again, if you're on the Zoom call and like to chime in, just send a chat note and Larry will see it and then he will ask you to come on to the show. Okay. Let's move on back to the land of Neverland. So the first part of our show today was to ask the question, what is going on with this military buildup? The second part of the question of our show, I should say, was to talk about, how America, either way now, is moving into never land. First of all, those theories that those conspiracy, I don't know if it's conspiracy theory, I don't know what you call them. These theories about the troops. Only one of them can be true. Probably all of them are not true. But either way, it's Neverland, land of make-believe stuff being put forth, and that millions and millions of Americans believe. And they don't just believe it, they propagate it. They criticize anyone who doesn't believe the crazy theory. They push it forth as truth. I mean, it's one thing to hope for something or maybe to believe it, but to push something forward out there as truth and other people are liars, it's crazy. It's crazy talk. Now, I've been saying, as you know, I've been saying for years that we talked about the progressive or liberal land and make believe. And we're going to talk about some of that in just a minute. And that's absolutely true. They believe that because it's their narrative, because it's what they want to believe, that somehow it's true, defying historical precedent, defying science, defying the laws of physics or the laws of nature or the laws of economics, especially economics, that somehow their policies don't violate those laws. So let's think back, the Peter Pan, Neverland, it was a 1904 literary classic. I think it might even originally been a play. Not sure if it was a book or a play first. But Neverland is an imaginary island, right, where the story's characters live and frolic around. Of course, there's good guys and bad guys, Captain Hook and the like, and the alligator or crocodile, right? But one of Neverland's peculiar attributes is that some of its residents don't grow old. They don't grow up. They stay kids. They stay childish. They maintain that childishness and in this fanciful world where pretty much anything goes. Up here, whatever you can imagine goes. Well, to me, that's the liberal left. And historically, for the last 5 or 6 years, and I've been warning that they think because they can think it and hope it so, that's the way it's going to go. And unfortunately, that's not true. So So today in 2021 in America, many people, mostly those on the far left, live in a similar fantasy Neverland, denying reality and acting like children, honestly. Adults, high-powered executives, acting like children, never themselves growing up to deal with people who disagree with them or with inconvenient truths, ignoring, canceling now those who oppose them or have opposing views. There are these Neverland politically correct woke narratives now that just contravene all human and historical norms, and like I said earlier, it contravenes any science that's inconvenient to the narrative. And I think I've asked this to you before, certainly something I talk to my wife a lot about. But here's the question: who among us is really living in the real world, and who among us is living in Never Neverland? Think about that as we move forward, because we both can't be right. Obviously, they think we're in Neverland, and we think they're in Neverland. Who's really there? Who's living in the real world? Who's living in the Matrix? I guess would be another way to say it. I mean, our side, when I say our side, I'll say the right. Let's just make it a right versus left thing, as I see it. Okay, all this is my opinion here, but our side believes in adult discussions, a vigorous debate, an honest look at our nation's history, understanding, appreciating, celebrating its accomplishments and achievements, but also learning lessons that we've learned the hard way from our mistakes, some of them monstrous mistakes. Also using human nature, also using physical nature and the laws of physics and the laws of economics as guides so that we can look at all of those things together and have a good debate about how do we best improve our society, whether it's culturally as a people or through government, right? That's you would honestly take a look at all those things. You should have a really good discussion and have a debate. But the other side doesn't want to do it that way. What I just described, our side was what I think is the adult way. But the left takes a childish approach to all this. They label those who disagree with them as liars. They believe that certain remembrances, symbols, and monuments and traditions are too painful to consider, therefore they have to be erased from the discussion. And when you do that, you only leave their side, right? Only their side's whimsical philosophy becomes the rule that they believe must be imposed without any debate on the rest of us. Who's living in the world? Who's living in Neverland? One side believes all voices should be heard in a true democracy, but that's the strength of our great American democracy. And now the other side wants to silence its opponents, childishly belittling others' perceived ignorance. And it's this attitude that's given birth to today's cancel culture. It's a childish exercise. Here's a great quote. I didn't know the guy before I saw the quote. George R.R. Martin. Apparently he's an American novelist, a TV producer, film producer. He says, that's a great quote. Listen to this now. Quote, when you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. End quote. What a great quote. It is this fear of debate, fear of having your point or philosophy or perspective countered. It's a kind of, get a little freaky here, it's kind of spiritual insecurity, in my view, childish insecurity, of not being part of the politically correct matting crowd or something like that. It's very childish. This left cancel culture is indeed childish, and it's not going to lead to an adult conversation that's going to seek or find any real solutions to today's many problems. It can't. I mean, this divide, this one side, our side, even goes so far, our side believes, I think, I can speak for us, America was founded on the principles of one nation under God, principles of freedom, not one nation under social media. The other side, depending on which way the Twitter winds are blowing that week, demean those who don't instantly adopt to these new theories and these new mandates and dictates to shut down their opponents, and who also seek to cancel God from our nation's culture. I mean, at least a real atheist would say, well, listen, I don't believe in God, but you have the right, to practice your religion as you. No, the left, that's not good enough for today's left. They want to cancel God, restrict your rights. I mean, how do we get here? And we talked a little bit about this last week. And I'm going to say that today, well, I'm going to say it this way. Just as the original fictional Never Neverland was a mythical creation of a fiction writer, today's liberal left is likewise a fabrication of activists who pretend they know what they're talking about, who come up with these theories that have no basis in reality, but yet become the narrative that is automatically, mindlessly, dutifully advanced by the mainstream media. So how do we get here? I think it's the media. Listen, these crazy theories have always existed. They've always existed in academia. They've always existed in entertainment industry. But they were always relegated to, you see with those crazy, the discussions. Maybe we'd hear about some silly thing on the news and we'd talk about it at the water cooler or at our family dinner table. But now these things, these ideas can instantly, at the snap of a finger, instead of just becoming what they once were, silly and unsubstantiated politically correct chatter, now they become the woke narrative, and they become governmental policy and the cultural norm instantly. And those of us who choose not to fly with Peter Pan out that window and into Neverland, we're the ones branded as the dangerous ones. Who the new word now, who must be not only canceled, we either got to be canceled or we got to be deprogrammed. That's the new word out there, deprogrammed. It's a good one I saw. The new snack for the left, Delitos, nacho speech, nacho speech. There's a Twitter and Facebook CEOs there. Won't even mention their names because they're such American socialists. Larry the Liberty Guy is on the screen, so that must mean something big is waiting. What is it, Larry?
It's the biggest, my friend.
Biggest. What do we have?
Roland is on the phone. Do you want to talk to him?
Of course we want to talk to Roland.
Of course we want to talk to Roland. Roland, unmute yourself.
Roland, are you
Hello?
there?
Hello,
Hey, Roland. Welcome back to In the Dugout.
Mike. You sparked a memory of my school days when you mentioned the word debate, and actually it was sort of coming to mind, but you sort of like pushed my thought over the finish line so I can compose myself. Back when I was in school, I was fortunate enough to attend parochial schools, but what we used to do was we used to have in-class debates. In other words, the teacher would always look for like a team of 5 and, pro and opposing, any type of topic. But here's the catch. You sometimes didn't get to choose what side of the debate you were on.
Right.
You were given a few days to gather information, and there was no internet then.
Yeah. No.
And you had to gather the information of how you were going to do the debate in the class. But here's the memory that I have. We would debate the topic, and probably for like maybe about a half hour, and then we'd break for recess, and then we were outside playing with the team that we debated. So in other words, we were taught it's okay to have opposing views.
Yep.
And listen to them, and then have unity after. And that I don't think we're seeing in the schools today to teach the kids how to practice that discipline.
Well, you make 2 great points there, Roland. The first one is the obvious one that today if you gave the opposing view to a politically correct team, you'd get thrown out of class, right? You get thrown out of the class.
Right.
Never mind be respected for engaging in an adult debate. You get thrown out, right? We've seen many stories of that happening at all kinds of academic institutions. But the larger point I think you were trying to make, and maybe let me ask you about this, Roland. Back then, too, politics wasn't everything in our life. It was something that was there. And I'm not talking as children. I mean, well, I guess I would change that too. I guess today they're trying to make politics a central part of a kid's life, but it shouldn't be. They shouldn't be worried about that. But people now live and die on the news, on the social media. I mean, it's almost like they have no other interest but politics. And go outside and be friendly with those who disagree with us. My God, they're the enemy. I can't. I can only hang around with people I agree with. I mean, is it? What do you think it is? Is it the 24-hour news cycle? Is it social media? What is it that has made politics become so important in everybody's everyday lives?
Well, I got to say, and maybe because I'm on the conservative side, and I really never did like when Obama became president in 2008. But do you recall the songs they used to sing in the New York school systems? I forget what they're called. But remember that Barack Hussein Obama?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that song?
Yeah.
And there was a whole song and ritual to it. It wasn't like when you and I were kids. And the closest we came to politics was, remember that commercial? It was how bills are made.
Yes.
On the Hill. Remember that? And that was the closest thing we came to politics. Now, when we set up debates in class, it was never about politics. It was, using a calculator or a slide rule, that kind of stuff like that. But I do want to blame it on Obama for indoctrinating school systems to teaching them to be one-sided. And
do you think it was really Obama who advocated for that little skit the kids did?
No, it was that not Alex Jones.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, his mentor, the Saul Alinsky guy.
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember his name.
Anyway, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And anyway, so I mean, public schools have been some sort of indoctrination, but it hadn't been to the extent, I don't think, until Obama was elected, and then they started infiltrating the school system. I mean, we see, like, you've seen the curriculum of some of the public schools. I mean, it's like teaching kids, like Joe wants, 8-year-olds, hey, it's okay if you're a boy and you want to be a girl, we'll help you. It's
Well,
normal.
Yeah, but here's the point. Here's the point I will make on your point, and then Roland, thanks again for calling in. You always make some great points here.
Okay.
So let's think of those kids. You know, how many years ago it was? What was it? 10 years ago, maybe. Doing the 10, 11 years. Barack Hussein Obama. You remember that? Like I said earlier, 10, 11 years ago, that was just something that was, some people thought was cute. Some people thought it was ridiculous to have kids do that, but it was just something that we saw on the news and we said, oh God, isn't that silly, and or isn't that cute, or whatever we might have thought, and that was it. But now, if we don't agree with that, if we don't say, oh, isn't that great, or we don't pledge to say, yes, we need to see more of that in our schools, we don't need to be more woke about these things, it's no longer just an issue on the back burner and on the fringe discussion of society. It's now the narrative that we must all either pledge to support or risk being deprogrammed or canceled if we don't support it. That's my point. These things always existed, these alternative views, but now they are becoming the rule. These crazy views whipped up overnight are becoming the rules. And I think, again, taking Roland's point to another level, clearly in our schools, they're not teaching, I should say, critical thinking. In our schools today, they're indoctrinating kids. What you saw there with that Barack Hussein Obama skit you talked about 10, 11 years ago was indoctrination. There wasn't any critical thinking going on there, and no other part of school, in many schools, I should say, is that being taught. The rule of thumb is don't think, be a sheeple, follow the narrative you hear from our tribal political leaders on our side, and just mindlessly and automatically absorb it and propagate it. Let's keep living in this pretend world of Neverland. Let's make the land bigger. Let's not even think about what we're doing here. Let's just do it mindlessly. Like we said last, so keep your blinders on. Don't see anything else that goes outside of the narrative, and just keep the Neverland blinders on. And they tell you, they want us to believe that that is being woke. That automatically believing what you're told, no matter how crazy it is being woke. I say that's being hypnotized. I say that's being mesmerized. I say that's being brainwashed. And no thank you to me. Being woke means you have no sense of reality of what's going on in the actual world. All you see is the imaginary American Never Land that the liberal left has created, the academic and entertainment industries glorify, and that the media endlessly, mindlessly, dutifully propagates. I mean, just think of the false storylines we have been fed, and that tens of millions of Americans believe with their whole heart. Think of the baseless storylines in the past few years that we have been fed, that we now know are false. based on recent, just this weekend, release of FBI documents, based on just other revelations. So let's go through just a few of them. The Russian collusion hoax, absolutely baseless, but yet dominated America for years. Never in Neverland, it was the talk of the town, it was the reality, and it was a hoax. Similarly, the impeachment farces. One last year, one this year. Even this year, just in a few weeks, we already know that it's false. But especially the one from 2 years ago, a phone call, an innocent phone call where people read things into words that weren't there. They pretended. They created this mythical Neverland impeachment farce. We know that now. It was true then. The systematic police racism lie. It's a lie. That lie in Neverland resulted in how many millions of billions of dollars of damage, how many people injured and killed in those riots in cities across America, the loss of faith in our institutions to control and keep law and order, all based on a media propagated lie about systematic police racism. How about the mindless shutdowns, the mindless acceptance, I should say, of pandemic shutdowns and mask wearing mandates that we statistically we know now don't work, didn't work. But yet many in Neverland hold to that belief, go crazy if they see somebody with a mask on, go crazy if they think of a business opening up and allowing people back into it again. In America, if you want to live in Neverland and you want to isolate yourself from the rest of the world, go right ahead. But leave the rest of us the hell alone, please. The Green New Deal illusion, based on these mythical solutions to climate change that will crush our economy and reduce our quality of life. The uninvestigated mantra that the 2020 elections were clean. Listen, I'm not going to hold on to any theory that you can believe it or not about President Trump and who should be inaugurated tomorrow, but it's an absolute fact that there was significant election fraud in many states. There was significant unconstitutional laws that were put forward without legislative guidance as the Constitution requires. It happened. It's true. But to the left, they think everything was just hunky-dory. We've got to fix this before the next election. And now the manic push to cancel conservatives because we are insurrectionist terrorists. People believe this. They believe that those beliefs justify canceling us or attempting to deprogram us, whatever the hell that means. And then, of course, on the flip side, just one example was the sticking your head in the sand, the Hunter Biden laptop story. That Joe Biden's going to have a hell of a tough time with this story once the truth and more details come out about not only his son's involvement, but his potential involvement as well with these foreign countries, including focused on China. It was hidden by the media from the public. So I say that indeed the fake news media is the enemy of the people. They are Peter Pan taking Wendy and you, and her siblings and your siblings out of that window out of that bedroom of reality and into the pretend world of Neverland. And they're doing it on purpose. They want you to be ignorant. They want you to pretend that things are so that aren't so. Again, these attitudes, socialist, communist, have been around for decades, but it's only been in recent years that the media has propagated them to such an extent, especially to publicly out, to knock down, cancel those who disagree with these mythical theories. Media is indeed the problem here. I mean, think about what the media was supposed to be, the role it was supposed to play in this country. So again, let's set it. We've got the real world, right? And then we've got Never Never Land, where abracadabra, fake news becomes perceived reality, and life is lived according to that perceived but fake reality. And we have tens of millions of Americans who live in the American Never Never Land. The freedom of the press was supposed to help us figure that out. The right of freedom of the press was granted under the assumption that these were, or under the presumption, I should say, that there would be honest journalists who would independently, in a nonpartisan way, informally serve as the fourth estate, or what some would call the fourth branch of government, and to be an additional check on reality and abusive government power, or any kind of power, corporate power, private sector abuses. The media was supposed to be the guardians of veritas, grounded in reality, protecting the people, or protecting and advancing the truth on behalf of the people, sending the real story to the people. Instead, today's media presents Never Never Land, this mythical creation, to the people. It gives them a safe place to live, the liberal left, I should say, the children of the liberal left don't take adult attitudes towards democracy. And we're supposed to believe that they are the woke people, the people who gullibly accept this Never Never Land myth are the people we're supposed to look up to as the woke ones who really understand, who have been awakened to the real problems of the land. If you are awakened to mythical problems in a fantasy land, again, you are not woke, you are hypnotized. And America tomorrow is about to fly out that window with Peter Pan, away from our life of reality, and we're about to go into Never Never Land when Joe Biden gets sworn in tomorrow. Joe Biden has put forth his Neverland dream list with policies and actions that he's going to take. Let's go through a few of them. By the way, Bernie Sanders says this is just the first installment of things to come, but what an installment. So you got Biden's, so between his supposedly proposed COVID spending and relief list and other things that he has mentioned via executive order or legislative effort that he wants to achieve, first of all, it's clearly a redistribution of wealth agenda. Now, only in Never Land can that increase the prosperity of a society, by making everybody equally poor. Taking from the wealthy, giving to the poor, That is in every place it's been tried, it's a recipe for disaster. In Rhode Island, they're trying to do wealth taxes. I mean, geez, New York, Connecticut, I mean, how many states, how many countries have tried wealth taxes only to have to rescind them because it's been a catastrophic failure? Industry been reduced, jobs been lost, and those wealthy people they're trying to steal from leave. Why wouldn't they leave? Well, maybe they wouldn't leave if wokeness prohibits them from leaving, but and Biden wants to attack and try to defeat the coronavirus by making it what's the word? Color-based, skin color-based. I think as he's quoted as saying his priority will be Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American-owned small businesses, women-owned businesses will get the relief ahead of everybody else. Only in Neverland is that fair and just. Only in Neverland can that possibly work. Legally, economically, culturally. The resentment, the divisiveness that kind of approach would create in the real world is beyond words. Reverse racism does not work. I mean, we just had Martin Luther King Day yesterday. We just had it. What's more important, the content of your character or the color of your skin? According to Joe Biden, it's the color of your skin. Friends, that is never. Joe Biden thinks that an extra $1,400 to every American will be a massive economic stimulus. It won't. The stimulus from the big last Democratic stimulus under Obama didn't work, didn't dramatically boost the economy. The $1,400 may help some people survive. A lot of people will probably save it because their savings have been diminished. It's not going to be the boost they think it's going to be. Again, but it is in Neverland. I mean, in Neverland, it's probably also the first step toward the guaranteed government income, whether you work or not. Another step in Neverland towards disaster, economic, cultural disaster, wreckage. He wants to raise the minimum wage immediately, $15 an hour. Again, only in Neverland does an increased cost of hiring somebody not result in decreased incidence of hiring somebody, whether that be people losing their jobs outright, or whether that people seeing reduced hours in their jobs. Just look at Seattle, just look at every other place where this has been tried. But in Neverland, we don't look at reality. We don't look at historical precedents. We don't look at the laws of economics. In Neverland, what we wish to be will happen. In Rhode Island. And we don't know what it'll look like federally, but in Rhode Island, we have this TCI gas tax, this Transportation Climate Initiative. Only in Neverland, when an economy and families and businesses are struggling to recover from these massive economic pandemic shutdowns, only in Neverland can we increase the price of gas by maybe up to 20, 30, or 40 cents a gallon and not have any further economic harm to that it somehow is going to benefit the world. That's only in Neverland. Here's a quote. I want to show you this. This one it's not any different than anything we've said, but I'll tell you why this is cool for us. Akash Shogali, former employee of Us at the Center, now a vice president for Americans for Prosperity, one of their initiatives, talking about the raising the minimum wage, essentially doubling it federally. And he says it's a foolish partisan, I would go on to say a childish Neverland wish list item. His words aren't that much different, or his categorization of it aren't that much different than mine. So folks, let's conclude today and pledge that we will remain in the real world, that we will work together to oppose policies that will try to take us into Peter Pan's Neverland, that we must beware of crazy theories from both the right and the left, either side of us. Both sides have their Neverlands. Let us be resolved to live in the real world. Think independently. Do your own research. Use your brain, do your own thought. Consider your life's experience, consider our nation's experience, consider the laws of nature, economics and physics, human nature. And think about what you really think, or what really will happen when some of these crazy ideas are put forth. Tomorrow, one way or another, America will be headed towards Neverland. How far we go, time will tell. From the dugout, go Pack, go.